All right, you ready to do this?
Yeah. Okay.
What's up, everybody? I just hit the car. All right,
Okay.
I'll do super cash.
Oh, no, stop doing that for sure. That's horrible.
Terrible.
Okay.
Cut.
Hey, everybody. Oh,
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
You have at it.
You were so bad at it just a
I
second
was really
ago.
bad. I
don't
think
know.
you should start off this
Okay.
one. Go.
Welcome to another garage series video, which is a term I just came up with because we're in Brian's garage.
This is the second garage series we've done, by
Yeah,
the way.
but it was my idea and I definitely came up with it. So dubbed because this car is in Brian's garage because he owns it.
That's right, and it's the Jeep Rubicon 4xe.
4xe, what does that mean?
Well, it means it's electric.
It's electric.
Yeah.
I noticed that it's plugged in over there.
It is plugged in, which is its proper state. You may have missed a previous video where we found out that's actually a problem with electric vehicles. What's up, everybody? Good morning. We got to have a conversation. And it's about plug-in hybrids, because behind me is the fantastic Jeep Wrangler 4xe. There's a fatal flaw with plug-in hybrids. And we talk all the time about electric range and range anxiety, but what about electric rage? Because that's what I'm experiencing this morning. This is a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe. There's the charger. There's the charging port. This is how I found the car this morning. You see a problem? The cord needs to go in the port in order for the plug-in hybrid to operate with electricity. And if that doesn't happen, you experience e-rage. And you may be asking yourself, well, why didn't you plug it in, Brian? Well, guess what? I do plug it in, but I don't live in this house alone. And somebody else had the car last night, came out this morning, and it's not plugged in. Anybody else experience this? Plug in the car.
Yes, plug in the car.
Yeah, you pretty much have to, guys. This is not a full electric. This is a plug-in hybrid. Under this hood, there's a 2-liter turbo engine, okay? But if you want it to run in electric mode, you've got to plug it in every day. You dang near have to plug it in every time you're at home, okay? Because there's only about 22 to 24 miles of range on this vehicle, which is plenty for most commutes. I get to and from work every day pretty much on electricity alone. And, but to do that, plug it in.
Sorry about...
It's so quiet.
It is so quiet.
It's so quiet. It is so quiet.
Did you just say that? I think you did. I'm sorry.
It's so quiet.
It is, and that's why you've got to plug it in, because a large appeal of this trim is the silent driving, the easy around town driving, because let's face it, Jeeps can be a little bit cumbersome to drive around town, just getting groceries and whatnot. So that's what I really like about this one.
Before we get rolling on the road, let's talk a little bit about what this is. Remind folks what we have under the hood.
We got a 4-cylinder turbo gasoline engine, and then what is it, 17 kilowatt hour battery pack in the back.
Under the rear seats.
Yeah, powering an electric motor that is sandwiched between the engine and the transmission.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I just know it works.
Yeah.
And it works really well. There's a couple of times that making sure I drive on electric mode as often as possible where I've gotten over 1,000 miles on a tank of gas. That's remarkable. In a vehicle like this, that is an off-road machine, can go anywhere. To be able to do that when you're just at home commuting is incredible. But it's also silent, and that's really what the experience is all about.
It's really nice because, let's face it, Jeeps are kind of loud and lumbering anyway. And so to not have the added noise of the engine is really nice.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do, we'll throw the top back. We got to talk about the top.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just your normal Jeep, removable top or canvas top. Nope. This is the Sky one-touch roof, and all the magic happens right here. What? That's right, folks. One button, hit it, and now we are open air. It's remarkable. No stowing of panels, none of that. No throwing back, getting out, going all the way around, throwing back atop. It was just that easy. This is a very pricey option.
It is pricey. What, $4,500 or so? Something like that?
Something like that.
Oh, it's up there.
It, though.
It's pretty great. And you should point out too, those rear window panels
Oh.
come out really easily.
I'll show you how easy this is.
Yeah.
There's just 2 latches.
And then this one right here.
Yeah, but be careful.
Yeah, there you go. You grab it from the outside. And then
Pops right out.
it pops right out.
It's a nice day.
Yeah,
We're
let's
gonna
go
have to
open
do that.
air. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's leave these behind.
All right.
Don't say anything about my nifty fire extinguisher back here.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that later because Brian needs that.
I do need it. This isn't just a mall crawler.
It's not.
All right, let's get this thing out of the driveway, and I want your impressions on electric drive in a Jeep Wrangler. Watch that parking brake, buddy.
Oh, wow. I'm just so surprised to see it set in a car that you own. So the first thing I'll point out with this versus like a pure EV is, like I said, that electric motor is sandwiched between the engine and the transmission. And that means you get the benefit of a torque converter driving around town, which is good and bad. You don't get quite that instant throttle response that we like with electric cars, but it has benefits. It's a little smoother,
It is
and then
smooth.
it's definitely a benefit off-road, which you've experienced quite a bit.
Yes. So I can talk a little bit about that. So just got back from a week-long trip to Big Bend, 1,700 miles in this vehicle. Now, that brings up an interesting use case because, like I said, great gas mileage. I can get 1,000 miles on a tank of gas during the week. Not on that trip. That was relying on the 2-liter turbo. However, out on the trail, and we did Black Gap Trail in Big Bend, we did have enough electrification for that to be a benefit out on the obstacles, and my goodness, it made climbing over rocks, ruts, climbing up hills, a piece of cake. Absolutely.
Yeah, you think that thing is, or this is silent driving around town? When you get out in a group of Jeeps out on a trail trying to climb obstacles, the difference between the regular Pentastar and this is even more stark because those things are noisy.
Very loud.
Yeah.
Everything, fans are running loud, and when those Pentastar-driven Jeeps are trying to climb over everything, you get the engine whine, and they're really working. This thing was not working at all. So absolute joy. Just climbed up over everything with ease with all of that torque right there available for you. It honestly surpassed my expectations in that environment and made me feel even better about having this version of the Jeep.
Yeah. So that's a benefit. You know, if you're not getting Rubicon, you want to go with the Sahara or Sport that's coming out soon, then if you're looking for those trims, you're looking for something just for around town, and it's definitely a big benefit there too. It's my favorite Jeep for just tooling around like this, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. Now, the one thing you're probably noticing, yeah, we've got the windows open, it might be a little loud, but it's also bouncing around quite a bit. That's just part of the Jeep experience.
That's Jeep life, yeah.
And the only cool thing I will say about the 4xe is I do think the extra weight from the battery pack translates into a bit more supple ride than most Wranglers. You get a little bit more compression in the suspension, and it just feels a little bit more settled. I'm not jostled around. It's not as harsh as a regular Wrangler. I don't know how you feel about that. It's been a while since you've driven one. I've just noticed it getting in and out of different people's Jeeps.
I think that's absolutely true. And it's just, look, it weighs more, so it's harder to knock it around. It's just simple physics.
The flip side of all that extra weight, though, is when you don't have any electric range, it really does hurt your fuel economy, for sure. And I found that out on that road trip. Like I said, 1,700 miles. My Jeep was the one that had to stop for gas all the stinking time.
Yeah.
The Pentastar V6, those guys, they were doing pretty well. They were getting 4 to 5 miles per gallon better than this thing on the highway. Now there's some caveats to that, which we can talk about later. But I will tell you, worse fuel economy, like for like, and this thing has 4 gallons less fuel capacity than the V6 Jeeps. Because of that battery pack and the extra weight, they reduce the size of the fuel tank. So you just have to take that, keep that in mind if you're out with other Jeeps. Okay, I've talked a lot, but Casey, you love the idea of the Jeep.
I do.
But you don't own one.
I don't.
And there's a reason for that.
There is, and that is, God dang.
What is it?
Awful.
We're leaving that in.
Okay. No, the big reason for that is comfort. And when I say that, there's a few, then this is even worse. This is even worse. Normally we talk about comfort and it's really just about the ride. And frankly, that's the least of my concerns when it comes to that and buying a Jeep. You just kind of expect buying a Jeep, that's part of the deal. The bigger problem for me is I'm over 6 feet tall and the car feels like it was designed for someone with alien proportions, okay? The footwells are really narrow. The seats are really shallow. They sit at a really awkward upright angle. And the roofline here is really low, so I feel scrunched, like I'm in a cave, unless the roof is open, and then I feel a whole lot better. Sorry, somebody's trying to execute a
10-point turn.
Yes, at least right here in the middle of the road, but that's okay.
We got
That's
the
all
entire
right.
roadblock. It's fine. It happens to
We
the
got
rest
great
of us.
weather and an open top, so I don't really care. But yeah, it's just not a very comfortable place to be for long periods of time. Now, I will say it's worse sitting in that seat for me. I used to hate riding in your Gladiator just because, I don't know, something about having the steering wheel to hold on to just makes the experience better. Maybe it's your driving, I don't know.
The only thing I'm going to say to this is there's plenty of folks out there, 6'2", 6'3", driving around in Jeeps, and they absolutely love them. Now, this guy is driving around in a cushy, full-size SUV with air-conditioned seats. Need I say more?
Sounds awesome. But your point stands. I'm kind of a baby, and I'm okay with that. And look, the more I get out with the family and experience the outdoors and drag a trailer around and drive some trails, the more appealing a Jeep becomes and the more willing I would be to accept the comfort penalty every day. And obviously lots of people do that, and I commend them. Maybe you can answer this for me, because I've been driving this around for 30 minutes now or so. I've spent some other time in it in the year or so that you've had it. I drove the 2018 JL or whatever that we reviewed, a Wrangler. I drove your Gladiator. And I have to say, this one, the 4xe, steers better than any other JL I've driven. And I wonder if I'm imagining that, or has that been your experience too?
It's a great question. I do think it goes back to what I pointed out earlier, the extra weight of this vehicle. Everything from a dynamic standpoint feels just a little bit more settled and supple. And I think it all the way down to the steering, because you're used to traditionally Jeeps just feel like they're all over the place. You're trying to wrestle the thing all the time, especially on the highway. I don't feel that way in this. So I'm glad that you noticed that. I think that's valid.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, yeah.
He did. He said, yeah. And look, okay, that's not to say this thing is a great driving car. No. All right. People ask me about it all the time, and I say, look, for every car I've ever owned, it's the worst driving. It's the most uncomfortable. And I absolutely love it. And I'm not giving it up, ever. There's just something about this experience. There's something about being able to go anywhere you really want to be able to go and do it like this. I love it. You know, Jeep life for me. Just look at the sky. Look at it. It's so blue
Look
today.
at the sky, Frito.
Look at the sky. It's a gorgeous day. We have an electric go anywhere convertible. I love it. But I got to cover something else with you guys, and that's towing. All right,
Yes.
because that 1,700 mile trip involved towing an adventure trailer with us, and that was a big question mark for us when we got the 4xe. We didn't know once the trailer arrived if this was going to do a good job of towing or not. And I'm very, very pleased to tell you it did an incredible job. You know, yeah, do you take a hit on fuel economy? Of course you do. But it towed that trailer, which weighs 1,900 pounds dry, about 2,500 pounds all loaded up, and really no issues at all on the highway, no issues off-road. Absolutely did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, so you were towing it all the way to Big Bend, and you were doing that with the intention of going off-road in Big Bend, and so you intentionally were trying to preserve the battery, which meant all that towing load was being done by that little 4-cylinder
Yes.
turbo. So naturally, that's a lot of work. You said that thing was 2,500 pounds all loaded up. Max tow rating on this Jeep is 3,500 pounds?
3,500 pounds.
Yeah.
So we weren't anywhere near that, but you know, we could probably take a little bit more. But yeah, the 2-liter turbo on its own did just fine. I was a little worried. You know, I was always watching the coolant temperatures and the transmission temperatures. It did fine. I had no issues whatsoever. Now, you did bring up a good point, because there was a recent update with the Jeep right before we left on that trip, and one of the changes was now the computer will preserve whatever mode you're in, okay, from the previous time you were in the car. So if you were in hybrid mode or you were in electric mode, it will lock in on that mode. So you turn the car off, turn it back on, you're still in all electric mode if that's what you were in before. The problem with that, for some reason, Jeep decided if you are in e-save mode, so you're just using 2-liter turbo, and you shut the car off, it will not preserve that mode. That's a problem when you're trying to save the electric battery for when you're going to camp, okay? Because as many times as you get in and out of a car on a road trip, and you forget one time to only use the 2-liter turbo, especially if you're towing, in about 10 miles, that electric battery's been used up. And it certainly happened to us. And we got to camp and we didn't have any battery left to use for some of the things we wanted to try and use it for.
Another thing Jeep could update, and we hear they might be updating this in the 2024s, is that 3,500 pound tow rating, because that's pretty low. And frankly, that's another thing besides comfort that is keeping me out of a Jeep right now, because my family's trailer is 3,500 pounds dry and well over that limit when loaded out. And if you look at other markets, the tow rating on the Jeeps is higher in other countries. And so I think they're going to update that with the next update, or the next mid-model refresh, because that's not just something, because they are competing against things like Tacomas now in that adventure category that do have higher towing capacities, and I think they need that.
Yep. All right. I'm getting out just so that I can pop around and let Casey tell you a little bit about the interior of the Jeep.
I don't think we can talk interior without talking about the Jeep's closest competitor. You brought up the Bronco, and in conversations you and I had about the two vehicles, you said that the Jeep had a nicer interior, and I kind of winced at that. The reason being, I think the Bronco just looks nicer. I like the design of it better. I like the layout of it better. But when you get in the Jeep and you actually start touching the surfaces and touching the controls and the buttons and all of that, I have to say, without question, the Jeep is nicer. I still prefer the look of the Ford, but the materials they use, a lot more plastic, a lot less soft touch. It's a nice looking car, but the materials are actually, I think, substantially better in the Jeep.
No, I agree on the materials front for sure. One thing I want to point out, the brown saddle seats, and I think this is something that you like as well.
I do, I like them a lot. It's definitely the color I would have if I were getting a Wrangler. I think they look the best no matter what exterior color you pair it with. We brought up the Bronco. I don't think they have a seat that looks as good in their range. And then, I mean, let's talk about the exterior of this car too, because I love this red, and I especially love it with the 4xe because of all the blue accents. So with a 4xe, you get the blue recovery hooks, the blue decals everywhere, and so the color combo in general just works really well. Might be my favorite Jeep color combo available.
Okay, earlier I talked about towing and I told you that the Jeep 4xe did a tremendous job towing, and that's true, but one modification we did make was we installed this, the Airlift Air Springs. This is about a $120 package. The kit comes with everything you need. And what it does, it's basically a balloon that you install inside the rear springs. And the benefit to that is once you put that trailer on to the hitch, you know, traditionally you get a ton of compression and rear sag on the vehicle. This, with about 30 to 35 PSI of pressure, levels that vehicle out, drastically improves the ride quality, and it's also a safety thing. So when the cars are pitched, you know, your headlights are shining right into oncoming traffic, and by getting that vehicle level, it really changes the game. And plus the vehicle just looks right when you're out towing as well. So, you know, easy to air up, easy to air down, and a great solution for towing.
Cool. Well, I think we should pop the hood because you love this car, but there have been some issues. And now listen, there's not an ICE engine on the planet that likes having really short start and stop cycles. It's not good for the oil life. And that problem is exacerbated by plug-in hybrids. And the engineers tried to come up with a solution for that, and it's kind of caused some problems. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, it has. And look, I told you earlier, you know, I can get over 1,000 miles to a tank. But what that means is sometimes I'm really stretching it, and you know, the engine may pop on when I'm a mile from home, and it's only going to run in that last mile, or it runs for a couple miles on the highway. Sometimes when it's really cold out. Like Casey said, those are short intervals, and that has become a problem. And what Jeep did to address is they created a fuel oil refresh mode, FORM. Okay, this is an acronym in the 4xe world that nobody likes to see, and we have experienced it. And what happens is once it goes into that FORM, that refresh mode, it will stay in that mode for a while. And I'm talking, you know, hour and a half's worth of driving. You know, they'll tell you go out and drive at 50 or 60 miles and it'll go through that full cycle. It will only rely on the 2-liter turbo at that time. It will not go back into electric mode, even if you got a full battery. And that is extremely annoying to people that bought this thing to experience electrification. We have had it. Jeep has gone through at least 2 software updates to address it. We haven't experienced it since the last update. However, it's getting much warmer here in Texas. FORM is especially prevalent in colder climates. And what I have noticed, anytime the temperature is below about 50 degrees, you're much more likely to see that kick in. So, you know, again, it may be something smaller displacement engines are going to deal with. The rumor is that Jeep is about to drop their straight 6 into the Wrangler platform, either, you know, back half of 2024 or beyond. Stay tuned. I think we're probably going to hear some things at Easter Jeep Safari for the 4xe platform. I know we're going to see a Magneto version 3.0, and that may give a better hint at what they do. A straight 6 with a 4xe hybrid, plug-in hybrid application would be amazing. So fingers crossed, because I think that would actually help in this situation.
All right.
Casey, let's wrap this up. This is obviously my Jeep. I love it. You can pry it from my cold dead hands, but you were still on the fence coming into this. What did you think about this version of the Jeep JL platform?
Well, look, I think I'll be on the fence for a while. It's not really big enough, doesn't tow enough, and I've yet to be in a situation where I need the capability that the Rubicon or a Jeep in general provides. I'll also say every time I load my family up and take them across the country, I think I brought too much stuff with me. So I don't know, we'll see. But to wrap up, for sure, this is the version of a Jeep I would have if I were buying one today. I love the 4xe, I love the fully electric, and it's the most comfortable and best driving one that I've been in.
Yeah, you know, we haven't even mentioned this. This is the #1 selling plug-in hybrid in America, which is kind of crazy because they're really expensive. But that's kind of a testament to how much people love them and how effective they are, despite some of the issues. Can't wait to see what Jeep does next with the 4xe platform and the JL. Lots of good rumors out there. Stay tuned and we'll see what they do. And with that, we end the only way we know how. So thanks for watching.